What's going on, guys? It's your boy the Markham Knight here. Today's video is going to be all about the brand new images we got of David Corenswet as Superman on the set of James Gunn's Superman. Now, I didn't really want to talk about the first image that James Gunn released because it was really a good look of the suit, because we saw the suit a little bit dirty. We saw him kind of sitting down, still putting on a boot. And I didn't really want to get into it too much because I didn't feel like it was an accurate representation of how the suit would look more on screen. I feel like these pictures with him on the set in actual lighting and stuff like that and everything is a much better look. So let's talk about it a little bit. I want to break it down a little. I want to give you my reaction to the suit. So right off the bat, I do want to say I really like this suit. But let's talk about what inspired this suit. So we see a lot of the new 52 here. We see it in the collar, and I feel like the collar would have looked even better with the new 52 red trim around the collar, but I do like the collar. It's a little bit of a new 52 look. It's more of a more modern style look. And speaking of more modern style, you have a lot of the lining and the piping and stuff like that that's on the suit, which is also very reminiscent of the new 52. The new 52 Superman kind of came about to shake Superman up a little bit and make him seem a little more modern. But then we do have a lot of classic stylings. So the classic stylings, on the cape, we have a gold S shield, which is fantastic. We haven't seen that since Christopher Reeve's version of the suit. We haven't seen it in a very long time. I was really missing it from the Cavill suit, and that looks awesome. And we also have trunks. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the trunks, but I do like what they did with the belt more than what they had in the original Christopher Reeve version and the obvious original Superman version, where it's more of a round belt. Instead, we have like an actual belt in this one. So that part's not as bad. Trunks aren't really for me. It's not really my thing. But I do understand that they're trying to get back to a more classic look, but also bringing it into the modern style, which I feel like they did a good job with these trunks because of how they handled the belt. So I think that looks good. And then we can talk about the S shield. The S shield is the Kingdom Come shield, but in gold and red, not in black and red. And I think it looks awesome. Because if we're being completely honest, the Superman S shield always has looked like an S. And it wasn't until Birthright, the comic book done by Mark Waid, that gave you the backstory of, oh, it stands for hope and whatnot, and Zack Snyder used that in his thing, but realistically it looks like an S to anybody who's seen an S before, so them having that on Krypton that way is a little bit different than them having this type of shield. This type of shield does not look like an S, but it kind of looks like an S. So it's something that you could get Superman to be like, oh, that kind of looks like an S on his chest, but you can also believe that it's an actual Kryptonian crest, his actual family crest, which makes more sense. And then the boots is kind of a mix of the old school and the new school. It's a little bit of the new 52 linings and cuts and stuff, but it's also old school in the sense that it cuts a little downwards in the middle. But regardless, I think the boots are fine. I didn't really have a care about it one way or the other. The colors to me is the important part here. We see the colors really pop in these pictures. And I really love that. They're very vibrant. If we look at a side-by-side with his suit and the Man of Steel suit, you'll kind of see what I mean. The Man of Steel suit, although it was blue, it was a very dark blue. Not even just navy, it was even darker, like a greenish navy almost. It was a very dark looking suit. And although they brightened it a little in Batman v Superman, I wasn't a huge fan of the puffiness of the suit. Because, again, Cavill's not that big. If you remember Cavill in Justice League, you see him significantly leaner than how he looks in the suit. So it looks like he's wearing a puffy suit. It looks like he's wearing a fake muscle suit. And if you're doing something like that, that kind of reminds me a little of Homelander. Because Homelander is a skinny man who's wearing a muscle suit to make him appear even bigger than he is. Now, as somebody who does work out, and I see that David Corenswet is now huge, he got jacked. You could see that this suit fits a little bit differently on him than the Cavill suit, because the Cavill suit has fake muscles built in. When you don't have fake muscles built into your suits, it's going to make you look a little different. The muscles won't pop as much, but you can see he has a significant amount of size. And if you see him in these pictures displayed with Mr. Terrific, who also looks amazing, or terrific I should say, but you see him side by side with him, then you can notice how big he actually is. He's huge, and he's 6'4". But again, like I said, the suit to me looks great. I love the vibrant colors. If you do a side-by-side of this suit and the Christopher Reeve suit and the Man of Steel suit and the New 52, if you look at all the suits kind of side by side, you'd see this is an amalgamation of everything, bringing in the classic and mixing it with the modern. And I feel like that's exactly what this suit needed to do. I think that's exactly what this movie needed to do. I feel like you also see him smiling a lot in all of these pictures. Now, don't get me wrong, these are behind the scenes stuff, so technically it might not necessarily be pictures taken from him actually acting. It might just be him having conversation with friends and conversation with crew and stuff, and he's smiling about that. But this gives me a hopeful Superman look. And if you look at the Cavill suit, in Man of Steel and BVS, a lot of the images that we saw of Cavill were him either scowling, and the suit is very dark and it doesn't give that hopeful optimism that a bright, like kind of going back to primary colors, but in a bright and vibrant way. And I feel like it's very important to note what James Gunn said about Superman, and he said about this movie. He said he is all about true justice in the American way, and that he has kindness in a world that thinks kindness is old-fashioned. And I think that's a fantastic way to think of Superman and represent Superman, rather than him being the God man who has problems of being a god trying to fit in with humans. I think it's very important to emphasize that part of his upbringing, rather than focus on him just being a godlike being with godlike powers. And don't get me wrong, I really love Man of Steel. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. BVS was not great, but Zack Snyder's Justice League was also pretty good. It's just I didn't like the trajectory of Superman outside of that. Because Man of Steel felt like it was an okay start for the universe, but you needed to get to Superman. And instead in BVS we kind of got a convoluted story. We had Superman battling with his existential crisis and stuff like that. And you don't need that right in the second movie. I think we need to establish Superman a little more, and instead we killed him off. And then he came back in Justice League, and in Justice League he was in there for maybe 15 minutes. And he came in there and he beat some guys up and stuff. And if we continued with Zack Snyder's story, we would have Superman lose Lois Lane and become Injustice Superman working for Darkseid. Which I don't think I ever would have wanted, because Injustice Superman is a cool Elseworld story. It is not a good Superman story. Anyways guys, those are my thoughts on the first looks at the suit and my kind of ideas about going into Superman, the movie. Tell me what you guys think. This is the Markham Knight, and I need you to like, comment, and subscribe.